Hello, everybody. My name is Clifton Johnson. Welcome to the Empower Series Online. I'm the founder of the Empower Series, and the Empower Series is a 501c3 organization that is brought to you through sponsorship and donations from Comerica Bank, AE Media Group, and you. So thank you. So you can imagine with everything going on today with the pandemic and the uncertainty and businesses opening up at some level of percentage, there's just a lot going on. In today's program, we're going to talk specifically with the District Director of the Small Business Administration here in Dallas-Fort Worth. But before I introduce him, I do want to tell you and express my condolences to everyone who has lost a loved one, a family member, or a friend as a result of this pandemic. So the Empower Series heart goes out to you. Stay strong, keep the faith, keep hope, because we will get through this. I also want to send our wishes to people who are struggling financially. So people are hurting all around. And so our goal in this program is to talk about some of the resources for businesses that will impact and help employees cover some of the financial bills and stress that we're going through today. So with that in mind, our guest is going to be Herbert Austin. As I said before, he's the director of the DFW Small Business Administration. And the DFW Small Business Administration really covers 72 counties in North Texas, Central Texas, and East Texas. And so Mr. Herbert's going to provide some insight as to what is available, also some clarity around some of the confusion. And you can imagine that this is unprecedented. When you look at the millions of people who are applying for unemployment, the millions of people who are applying for the different types of SBA guaranteed loans. And so, Mr. Austin, welcome to the Empower Series again. You came to our podcast and your show was very enlightening and informative. So I want to welcome you again to help us understand what's available to help us get through this financial crisis we're going through. So welcome.
Thank you so much. First of all, my heart goes out to all the small businesses that have been affected by the coronavirus. There are 30 million of you in the United States, and a large portion of you, if not all, have been somewhat affected. And that's why a couple of programs that were created by the government and the SBA in particular to help you, to help alleviate your pain. One of the programs is to help companies who already have a debt with the SBA. That is, you have a loan, a business loan with the SBA. That loan is current. We want to be able to take over the cost of the principal and interest, plus any fees that are associated with this loan. The SBA has decided to pay for the small business customer, and many of you get loans every single year with SBA. So that's 6 years that they can carry you, so you don't have to worry about how to make these payments. Your banks have been aware since early March, and I guess the small business, the bank would have let you know. I know that a lot of banks haven't said anything to their customers because we get those calls. Oh, I heard about this. So we have to send the policy notice many times to the small business so they can share it with the lending institution, or maybe a small bank that does very little bit with the SBA anyway. So that is in process right now. We started in end of March, so you may say what happened if I've already paid March, April. Couple of things. You can ask the bank to give you your money back, but you can carry it from May. You can start the process.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you about that program before we talk about the other ones. So the first thing is, on average, you've got in this area, North Texas, Central Texas, and East Texas, you have existing businesses out there that have current SBA guaranteed loans. And this benefit is saying that if you currently have a guaranteed SBA loan, you are going to be given a relief of having to make 6 months of your principal and interest payment, as well as fees, you were saying, right?
That's correct.
That's correct. And inevitably, that communication probably has not gotten to everyone. So part of this program is to help get this to people who have existing loans. With that being said, you said the banks were aware of this back in March. Some banks have probably been on top of it to get this out to all of their different customers who have SBA loans. but probably not everybody knows. So what is the best way, if someone's listening to this program right now, they were not aware, they should probably do what? They should not call SBA. They should probably call their bank who's servicing that loan. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I would find it hard to imagine. We do about 30 billion of loans in the United States every year about, and in my district office we do about $1 billion. So I would hate to imagine that a small business, every small business hasn't been affected. If you're affected, the first thing that you would do is call your bank for a deferment. That's what happens normally in case of a disaster. So when you call your bank might say, I have something even better. The SBA came up with a policy whereby you do not have to pay me for the next 6 months. So if you have a loan, I would bet you 99% of the folks, they would have known, because they care. They care about making those payments that they cannot make now, and they want a way out. They want assistance. Yeah. And one of the assistance would be, can I have a deferment? I understand SBA allow me to do that the same way we do for disaster loans, right? So people do know. If you had a loan, I bet you would know.
Well, let me tell you this. I'll tell you right now, because a loan payment is probably just one of the many payments that a small business has. When you look at payroll, we'll talk about that more. You look at lease payments, you look at all of the other costs involved. I can imagine that there's just some business people are just walking away, closing their businesses. But to your point, it is very important for you to call your bank and really inquire about specifically this if you are paying back a SBA guaranteed loan. And
as long as your loan is in good status with the SBA. So okay, if awesome. You tell me, I told you that earlier. I told you that you might have missed it. You might have missed it as the first thing I tell people. If your loan is in default, you haven't paid your loan for 3 months. Now you come to the SBA, help me for the next 6 months. That's not what we're talking about. The rule is very clear. You know, when somebody said me, Herb, my bank does not know, can you send me the policy notice? The loan has to be in good standing. I've consistently been.
But if you missed March's payment and April's payment, it should not be in bad standings. It should not be in default, because that's when the program was initiated, and those payments should have been made by the SBA. So if they didn't mail those payments in, that's not contributing to their default status. Is that correct?
That's correct. Because, I mean, as you know, when did the coronavirus really started to affect us?
In March.
Exactly. Yeah. So up to February, you've been making your payment every month. So you might have missed one, and the bank say it's okay. But if they put you in default status.
If you were behind in January, you can't blame the virus, right?
You definitely you're no longer in good standing. You know, the bank would have already told SBA this loan, you know, is probably already, you know, is been missing, it's consistent, it's been missing payment for a couple of times. You know, we got to start thinking of liquidation.
Okay, no question. That's one program. So what's some of the other programs that we want to do?
The second program that we have that has assisted, helped over 5.5 million small businesses is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. As you all know, the program was shut down a couple of weeks ago because of a lapse in appropriation. There was no more money available to fund, therefore we stopped receiving application. Then when we got the money to support the program, we recognized that there was a group that was affected because they were not eligible to apply. That's the farmers, the people in the agricultural industries. They were prohibited to apply for the program, as they have been over the years with SBA lending, because when they need loans, they go to the USDA. So there are programs available for them, but there is not now with USDA. So we allow them to apply. So when the portal opened up, only these organizations were allowed to come in and put in an application. If your application was one of the 5.5 million that has already been accepted, it will be looked at. It may reopen again at some point when they realize they have so much money left over, not enough farming people in the farming industry apply. They may reopen it for a couple of days. We don't know that. So they never said never, but it may happen that they may reopen it. So people who've already applied are okay.
So currently, in the economic injury disaster loan, the only types of industries that can apply for those loans are farmers and agricultural companies.
That's correct. So
But
that if you go to the portal, you try to apply, you or I, it will not accept your application because
okay.
there is a code that you will put in that doesn't fit in, that industry. Yes.
Okay, so the 5.5 million that applied initially, if they're already in there, there's a lot of first-time glitches. People are still waiting for their money, I hear, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. A lot of people are getting their money slowly, but the system is working. As I said, it's unprecedented. They never received that many applications in one disaster ever before. And so they struggle a little bit in surging, putting people together to respond to phone, when you call the 800 number. To some of them are contractors that you have to educate and things like that on the system. So that took time. Where the processing takes place happens to be in Fort Worth. They had to surge, finding people to work. Right now it's difficult, believe it or not. People have to make a decision. Am I really willing to go and work in that kind of environment with the coronavirus, or should I really go on unemployment? So, as you would think, people are looking for work, but with caution. So even surging was difficult. So everything, there is a backlog. But again, if you're already in the system, at some point you're going to get your advance of up to $10,000 first, then your loan will be looked at later on. And since you never put in, they never allow you to put in a dollar amount of what the loan ought to be, it will be determined by the loan officer who will underwrite the loan, and based on the information you provided, a decision will be made for you. So
okay.
at some point, somebody's going to call you and say, we are ready to make an offer to you. Give it your account number. Again, is that the right one that we use for the advance? We want to offer you X amount of dollars, up to $2 million. So you may argue, well, that's not going to make it for me, And
so before we get into the advance, the first miscommunication was probably the thought that these loans or money would be available in 2 to 3 days, but that 2 to 3 days was really after your application was reviewed and looked at. And so there's a multiple day waiting period before an application is actually even looked at. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that was never clarified in the language. Like they said, up to 10,000, what does up to meant? It was never explained. It's 1,000 per employee. It would have been easier for them to say that.
Right.
3 days, we want to put money in your hand within 3 days. That was really the intent, because they wanted, as the application is in the queue, cut you a check so that you have a little bit of money, recognizing that that application will not be seen by a loan officer maybe 25, 30 days later. But it didn't turn out that way. It turned out that when they are about to make that credit check, they pull your credit report, that may be the time that they start putting check out. That money is forgiven. So if your loan is looked at by a loan officer and you deny, that money is yours. It's a grant.
Oh, okay. So that's
yes.
great.
Even if you get turned down, which we're seeing a lot of for credit, if you get turned down, there's a reconsideration process. You can go back to SBA and say, what is on my score, my credit report? This is not mine. You can contest it and request a reconsideration. So that's still possible, but again, it's going to take some time because people are not even getting their letters that they've been turned down or denied officially, and they're not being told there is a reconsideration process.
Okay, so let's be clear on something. This is the economic injury disaster loan.
Yes.
This is not the Paycheck Protection Program. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
So on the economic injury disaster loan, people were going online. They were applying for this loan. It's taking a long time to be looked at. But then once the underwriter is looking at this loan, you're saying that the advance, the up to $10,000, is made available within a few days.
That's correct. It's deposited in your account because you did put, I want an advance, I want to be considered, and you would have given your account number and the bank where you bank, and they would send you a check. Unfortunately, again, many people get a check, they don't even know it because there is apparently you're not telling people, by the way, the check has been sent to you yesterday. We know that.
And so as we said before, it's not $10,000, it's really $1,000 per employee. So where people think they're going to get a $10,000 deposit, it's really, and they only have 3 employees, it's really $3,000, right?
That's correct. And people assume that it was 10,000. And as you may have heard, there is a group that is suing the agency, because they're saying, the law says 10,000. You come up with that up to 10,000 to confuse people. So there is a couple of suits out there. So, but the fact is it's 1,000 per employee. So if you have 10,000, you will be receiving a check of 10,000 that you get to keep, whether you get turned down or denied.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So that's forgivable if you're turned down. But then if you're not turned down, then what you are given as an advance is then deducted from what you actually get, right? And
if you remember, the language was never a grant. The language was always a loan advance. In nowhere does it say that it will be forgiven. In another chapter, maybe. So if the loan officer decides you should be getting 100,000 and you already got 1,000 up front, your loan amount will be 99,000.
Exactly.
But the 1,000 is yours to keep.
And then that 99,000 as part of the economic injury disaster loan, is that still specifically for payroll?
No, absolutely no. As a matter of fact, I've been telling people, to apply for both programs, as long as it's not for the same purpose. So I tell people, why don't you take advantage of the forgiving piece and apply for the PPP, for the forgiving piece, if it's 99%, 100% as we spoke, then you apply for the other one for other costs associated in operating a business, whether it's mortgage, whether it's rent, whether it's this. So it's for a mixed bag. One of the advantage is that you have a 30 years term. So somebody may say, well, the PPP, I could have done the same, but it's a 2-year term. You have to repay that debt in 2 years if there is a debt portion in it. So now you're applying for 100% of here, all forgiven, and you're applying for everything else here. So if it's not for the same purpose, you can carry a debt for 30 years repayment. Here the interest rate is higher on this side, it's 3.75%. Here it's 1. But it's not 2 years term, this is 30 years term. So businesses have to make that decision. But when I'm asked the question, I encourage them to apply for both programs.
Okay, I got you. So let's separate things. Let's say the PPP, which we'll get to, is going to be for payroll. So as a business, you have other costs besides payroll. And if you need some relief or some additional resources to help you through this tough period of time, you can apply for the economic injury disaster loan for those other types of expenses, you're saying?
That's correct. So if you're a guy, you're self-employed, you're operating out of your home, you only have yourself as for the payroll, and you get the full amount of it could be 100%, because you're not applying for anything else. You assume that you have no other expenses, or you have expenses that you don't know you have. Your telephone bill has to be paid as a result of running the business. So you may totally deny that. But it's primarily to help you get employees back to work, so they don't have to go to unemployment line. So most of the loans that we're seeing are really not small. They're not in the millions either, because the average loan size the second time around is $79,000. So we know that a lot of folks are applying just for the payroll piece. 91% of all those loans, 91 is for payroll purposes. Yeah. But there is another little piece that is covered, because remember, the big question, and it's been asked already, people want to make sure they understand the forgiveness piece.
Yes.
So that's been asked, and SBA is still writing a rule on it, believe it or not. There is some information. There isn't enough information for someone to understand it. But people want specificities, and is it 8 weeks? What happened if my payroll start on that day? Would I be covered after 8 weeks and a week, for example? So a lot of those questions, and so SBA still has to write that policy that govern just forgiveness. We have written many interim final rule, but this particular one that people are questioning now hasn't been written on paper. So when you go to the bank, you have a piece of document that says, wait a minute, Mr. Banker, that's what this says, and that's policy. That's almost a rule. That's almost a law. So that, so basically we know that the payroll, once you bring employees back for 2 full weeks of work and you can prove it, that's what the bank is going to see. Show me that these people were paid $200,000 so I can forgive $200,000 of that debt, but that loan was for 220, you still have a debt of 20,000 that you're going to carry for 2 years. So this is a conversation you're going to have with your bank.
We've kind of skipped on to the PPP, and we don't want to talk about that yet.
Yes.
So forget we talked about that. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
We're gonna stay on the economic injury disaster loan. So you applied, you thought you were going to get the money in 3 days, but it's taking you 20 and you don't know what's going on. So before it's even looked at, if someone is trying to inquire to say, where's my money? Because it's been 5, 10, 15 days, how do they find out? Is there a phone number, or how do they inquire to see where their application is in the stacking order?
So depending on where you are, in our case, you're in Dallas-Fort Worth, there is a disaster processing office that nobody knows about. There is no number to call. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you are likely to call my office, thinking that I am SBA, therefore I should have an answer. I don't have the answer. I don't have that portal to know exactly where application is. Hasn't been given to us for whatever the reason might be. Mm-hmm. So people from outside of this area are calling my office because that's the only number they have. When they're looking to get the status and they go to the website and they're looking for an office in Fort Worth, they see me. They do not see the processing office since there is no number to call. So when they call us thinking that they're going to have an answer from us, the bad news is we have to tell them, I'm so sorry. There is a number to call. It's an 800 number. It's 800-659-2955. Many times when they call that number, they get disappointed because they don't get the answer that they need. The answer may be, your application is so far in the queue that we can't even see it yet. That's not what you wanted to hear. That's not what you wanted to hear.
So your no relief.
Your application, and they can even tell you just about 15 days, we should be able to pass it to a loan officer. Even that information you cannot get. So people are disgusted with the system, but most of all with us, our inability to be able to tell them, we do have the answer for you. Because the reality is we are a separate office of SBA, right? So, but people don't know that. People assume it's one SBA, give me the answer. So that's the process. We're seeing people calling our office, not only from the district, but from other states, and asking they want to know the status of their loan application they've put in 30 days ago. They always know somebody who is getting money already. They always tell you that somebody who applied after them is getting money, how come I'm not? So very common. So those are the calls that we have to fill every single day in the office right now. Those are, whether it's a call or an email, it's always somebody, I want the status of my loan. And it'd be nice. And that 800 number, by the way, they have gone from 70 people to 3,000 people.
Wow. So
they have surged so quickly. There's a bunch of contractors who needs to be trained.
But you're still having like 5.5 million people call in, right?
That's correct. You still have that many people calling all the time for the status, and nobody can tell them, call me back in 15 days. The way it's moving, I think your loan will be in front of somebody in 15 days. Why don't I call you back? There is no such a thing. It's supposed to be a customer service center, and people are not getting the answer. So we're taking some action right now. Because the disaster is right in my district office, the disaster center, we are actually making a list of those calls with the loan number, with the person email, telephone number or email address. We send that list to a contact person at the disaster center who will provide us some more guidance, as opposed to telling people, go to the 800, because they don't want to hear that anymore. They're not being well served.
What happens is you're getting the contact information of the people who are calling in, then you're sending it into this call center, and then are they going to get back to the people who called in?
No. What we're doing right now in our office, I'm not suggesting that every SBA office is doing that. What we're doing right now, if you were to call, Herbert, I need the status of my loan, my answer should have been call the 800 number that you've already tried to call 10 times. We recognize that. So what I would say, Mr. Johnson, what's the loan number? 33, you give me a number. I have your telephone number. I have the list that will be going out to our contact person that we have established a contact at the processing office. Those are the people who really have access. So in the morning, we get a report back. This loan has been denied for credit. This loan is with a loan officer. We are actually able to tell, the caller something that makes sense.
Okay.
What
understood.
we cannot tell yet, and we're still working on it, is it is with a loan officer. It should take no more than 10 days. It should take no more than 5 days for closing. That we haven't established a relationship that far yet.
Okay, so now my application is finally being reviewed by an underwriter. So immediately within 2 to 3 days from there, if I've checked off that I want an advanced loan, then I'm going to get anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 based on the number of employees I have.
And that happens before it gets to a loan officer. There is a step before it gets to a loan officer. That is, now I can see the application.
Okay, now when the application is seen. Okay, so
not by a loan officer.
Okay, so
at that point, I can deposit a check for you.
All right, and so money's just appearing in my account. I'm going, hey, okay, I got some money, but then it's still going to go through a number of days of underwriting. If in that end of the process I'm denied, then the money that I got as an advance, I can keep. No harm, no foul. I just keep going.
Money is yours. Money is yours. It's in the law. Not only is yours, but now if you get turned down, remember, and see, many people are happy. They really didn't want to carry your debt to begin with, right?
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
They didn't want your debt. So they are actually very, very happy. In fact, some of them went to the application and just fill out, I want an advance. And when they tell me that, I find that so weird. Now, you denied. Everything worked out well because you just wanted your $5,000 up front. Now, if you decide I needed that debt, you want to know now when will your loan be looked at by a loan officer for an approval. And if it's not approved and you get denied, if you really want that debt, you can go for reconsideration, which is another step entirely far away.
So before we get there, let me just ask you this. Now, I did not get denied. I got approved for $100,000. I got $5,000 in advance. So now that I've been approved, then I can get $95,000 because I already got $5,000 of the $100,000 that I was approved for, right?
Right.
So
correct.
At that point in time, if I decide, well, I don't want to take on the debt, can I deny the loan approval and keep the $5,000? Or do I have to give that back since I was approved?
No. So what will happen? The loan officer will call you, or a case worker, they call them. It's passed on a case worker. That's the very first time you're going to be in conversation with somebody because you got to close on that loan. When you get that call, there are a couple of ways. You can say, you know what, after consideration, I really don't need it anymore. Case closed, the money will be used for somebody else. But after consideration, I don't need it right now. Can I wait 3 months? Your choice. There is no expenses for closing. You have no expenses at all, no cost, no fees. So you can do that. Or you can say, I am willing to take the money. What is the next step? Can we close now? Can you deposit on my account?
But back up. Well, if I have a change of heart, I don't need the money, do I have to give back the advance?
You keep the money because that was the condition under which you were applying.
Okay, so I'm good. Okay.
Exactly.
Now I say I want the money. You're telling me that this economic injury disaster loan is a loan. None of that is forgivable.
Only the advance. Only the advance
Wow.
is a
Now I think there's
grant.
some clarity happening because I'm pretty sure that 100% of the people who applied for this loan did not have that understanding. And that's why we're doing this.
But I don't know why you say that, because I'd be silly if I don't know the program that I'm applying for.
Because
I can't believe you're saying that. You're such a smart person. I mean, I would hate to believe someone applying for a loan and they don't know it's a loan. Because that's what you're applying for.
Let me tell you
You're
something.
applying for a loan. Economic injury disaster loan is by name a loan that you're applying for. The SBA has added, after the fact, a little piece in the application that we didn't have before, ever before, saying we can get you a loan advance. You're still in the dark. We think you're applying for a loan. And we're saying now that loan advance will be forgiven whether you get the loan or not. I mean, this is.
Hey, there's a movie line that says, what we have here is a failure to communicate.
But there is no communication. You're applying for a loan. The PPP is very different. The economic injury disaster loan has always been a loan.
Everything is being merged together.
No, that's not true. This one is a loan, one can be forgiven a large piece. So when you're applying for the economic injury loan, you have to understand you're applying, and that's what my webinars are all about. You're applying for a loan, you have 30 years to repay it, the interest rate is 3.75%, you have 1 full year deferment, and yes, credit will be looked at, but we don't need any information. Over 200,000, we could require collateral for the loan, but everything under, it's a loan. So the word grant has never been used. Even on the application you're applying for, I want to be considered for a loan advance.
So
nowhere.
Mr. Austin, I'll tell you this. This is very clear to you, but it is not clear to every individual out there who is trying to apply for these loans.
So the word loan doesn't mean anything to for 5.5 million people?
You know that, but then the question is this: when you add into that conversation that you get in advance and it's forgivable, then what people hear is forgivable. They don't hear about the fact, they don't hear the advanced portion of that. They hear forgivable. And then they combine this, just like we're talking about the economic injury disaster loan, but in that conversation, you started talking about the Paycheck Protection Program. So you did that. There are people who are merging all of these different features together, and they are not as clear that they're two separate processes. And it's just, people.
We have had in my office over 100 webinars to educate our people. Every single SBA office is doing the same. Every day we're encouraging the chambers of commerce with congressional senators to organize webinars for many times 1,000 people on the line listening because they need that information. They're hungry for that information. So we're giving them the information. Many times there are questions we don't answer, and we tell them, this is our number, give us a call. We will get the information for you out of Washington. It's a policy thing.
That's exactly why we do this, because at the end of the day, we can list everything that we do, right? But that doesn't mean that everybody gets it, because everybody is not aware of all of the free resources that are available, because there are other things in life that has their attention and their capacity to really understand. And so to your point, it makes a lot of sense to a big percentage of people that a loan is a loan. But I'm telling you that there's some level of confusion, and I'm glad that you're here right now clarifying that for a lot of the people who are listening, who may not have really understood or read the fine print of the documents that they're signing. So
I'd be hard pressed to imagine. I'm not a business owner. I never pretended to be, because I don't have what it takes to have my own business. I prefer to work for a government where my paycheck is guaranteed. I would hate to believe that someone is willing to start a business. They have a passion for it. They understand how to make money, or to make payroll, or to prepare their own financials in cases, and you don't understand a loan is different from a grant. I find that hard to imagine. I find that hard to imagine. They can start a business, and grow the business and still not understand a loan is a loan is a loan is a loan. And as I said, Mr. Johnson, we had over 100 plus, and we still have in them. Now I'm discouraging people to have those because we only have one program and the money is going to go out soon. We don't know whether we are going to have another stimulus, or if there is, we may not be included in it. Because you can tell that the number of applicants is going down, way down right now. So they may decide there is no need for another stimulus for SBA, but we have those seminars for a reason.
So I'll tell you this, that there's a level of financial literacy in this country that is not as high as we would like it to be.
Not the business owners. When we talk about financial literacy, it's for some neighborhoods where the kids don't understand and we want to educate them. But for you to open up a business, to register a business, to go to SCORE, SBDC, to get educated, to understand, to build capacity, to hire people, and for you not to know a loan is a loan is a loan is a loan. When you go to a bank for a 7A loan or a 504 loan, it is the same thing. You're applying for a loan. And for people to imagine EIDL loan should be a grant, but maybe that's what they mean. I don't see the confusion. And if there is a confusion,
I know you don't. You don't see it, but
enough seminars. We have enough seminars for people to be educated.
But I do seminars, and it's like, so which word do you not understand? And it might be the word loan, because not everybody has the same understanding of loans. And so I'm so glad that you're here clarifying that. And that's why we're doing here. That's why we're doing this with the Empower series, to really make sure that people understand that a loan is a loan is a loan is a loan. And this loan is not forgivable, but the advance is forgivable. And that's very, very important for people to understand. Is there anything else that's important for people to understand about the economic injury disaster loan before we talk about the PPP?
Okay.
The
well, the disaster loan, people need to remember the difference is a government loans directly from the government to the small business. Now, when we talk about anything else, it's a bank loan that we provide a guarantee on. So when something happens with the application, don't give us a call because we cannot help you. It's a bank loan. We sit back and provide 100% guarantee on that loan. But when you tell us today at a couple of calls, I underestimated how much money I would need. Now I just realized I should have applied for more money. Can you help me? We cannot help you. Go back to your bank of account, the bank who made that loan to you, and talk to them about it. Yeah. So yes, so we can finish with economic injury for the people who have applied already. We ask for their patience because I'm sure they've been waiting a long time. I can only ask for their patience. There is no way out. They need the money. Some small business might have shut down because they cannot get money either way. We recognize all that, but there is nothing that we can do in these unprecedented times.
So the last point you made was that the economic injury disaster loan is really a loan that is funded by the federal government. It is not funded by banks.
Correct.
Like people who have a loan that is guaranteed by SBA right now, those loans are funded by banks, not the government.
That's correct. That's correct. We only provide a guarantee to the bank.
Right. As well as the Paycheck Protection Program, which is what we're going to talk about now, is really a loan that you're getting from the bank that is guaranteed by SBA, correct?
That's correct. It's 100% guaranteed by SBA. You can apply for up to $10 million per business. The interest rate on those loans is 1%. The term of the loan is 2 years, and there is a deferment of 1 full year. After you get the disbursement, you have 1 full year to start paying that debt. Now, the reason why it's a 2-year term, it's because they expect that debt to be so small because they expect most of the loans to be forgiven, because the program, as the name implies, is for payroll. So if a one-person operation calls me and say, Herb, I'd like to apply for that loan, you're more likely to get a small loan of $10,000 if a bank wants to do it.
Right.
$5,000 if a bank wants to do it for that amount, because it still takes time for the bank to get the paperwork in order, right? So the program was really designed, I hate to say, for an organization that have people, so you can take advantage of that payroll, that would be forgiven. Mm-hmm. The payroll, Paycheck Protection was designed to help companies who either had let go employees that they can't call back to work, or employees that they managed to keep despite tough times, and they want to give them money for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah. So a couple of things to know about this. So even though this is a loan program too, a big portion of it is forgivable. So it's a loan, just like, we talk about loans are, you got to pay it back, but you're saying that the portion that is for payroll is forgivable. And that is the expectation that that's going to be the majority of these small loans. Right?
And if it's not, you're not going to get the loan. You're ineligible to apply. So if after your calculus, 75% or more of that loan is not for payroll purposes, it's for other expenses, regardless of the amount, you, in a sense, ineligible to apply. You can apply, but you have a debt to carry. Yeah. And the intent of that program is to put money in your hand that you do not have to pay back. Right. And 91% of the loans in the book right now, an average of 91%, is for payroll purposes. But there is an 8-9% where the people have to carry a debt of $10,000, $15,000 that they don't mind carrying at 1% interest rate.
Yeah, and it's very important because there's some documentation that is required for these. And so if you're an LLC or some other type of legal entity, there's a certain set of documentation that's required. But if you are a sole proprietor and you're like a single owner LLC or just a sole entrepreneur, the other documentation is it's not the same. Because you are.
That's correct.
Yeah,
you don't have the same documents. You have you have Schedule C. I think line 31 would be for self-employed. But the documentation that is required is different from the type of business. Yeah.
And so it's very important when you're filling out these applications and you're going through a bank, because in these situations, if you can go to a bank and complete the application through a portal, but you were just saying too that there's an application process that is provided by the SBA and the Department of Treasury, right?
In their site, treasury.gov or SBA.gov, you see an application that says PPP for borrowers. It is designed to help you with the process. So it starts by asking you whether you're a sole proprietorship, whether you're an LLC. So that is already on the paper. So the bank is clear to the bank, the kind of documentation they are going to ask you. Then there is a bunch of yes and no answer. I'm on probation. Well, you cannot apply for a loan if you're on probation. So those things are very specific on that document without having to go to the bank for the bank to ask it. It's on the application. I had a college loan that I default on. Well, it's a government debt. You cannot apply for another loan. So all those are on the SBA application. And as I said, many banks like Comerica, the preferred lenders, they probably mimic it. They ask you the same question on their own application. Yeah. But that application was designed to sort of pre-qualify you, and it allows you to do the calculation. It is on that application that you will see average payroll times 2.5. So you have all that information when you go to the bank. They may ask you additional documentation. They may say, that's not sufficient for me. I need you to fill out my own Comerica application, right? But this is the way it would work. Yes, you take that application, you take it to a bank. The bank will tell you all kinds of stories. You don't have an account. It's something different. But we are hoping that you go to a bank that is willing to accept your application.
So the process is you submit the application. You go through the pre-screening process, either through the SBA or the Department of Treasury, or you go to your own.
It's the same application. It's just on both websites. Same application, yeah.
And then you can also go to a bank, Bank of America, Comerica Bank, and they have a portal where you can complete that application on one site, and you don't have to go to multiple sites. But once you complete it and provide the necessary supporting documentation, then that application and documentation is then reviewed by an underwriter.
Correct, of the bank.
Make sure that you qualify for all of the, using all of the current SBA standards or guidelines, and then you'll be approved. Now, the timing, yes.
You need to remember that it's very lenient in that they don't look at personal, you have to personally guarantee that loan on an SBA and a regular loan. That's not a requirement. Normally, in an SBA guaranteed loan, if you have collateral, you have to pledge it. That's not an issue. I don't even think they pull a credit report.
Yeah, it's very simple. Very
credit
easy.
is not an issue. So it's really made to really help people. Instead of cutting a check to everybody, we go to this process, I think. So it's simple, it's streamlined. So somebody looks at it, approves it, right? So we're still not in the process at SBA yet.
And then what's next? So is the timing for when that deposit is made, is that based on the actual bank you're going through, or do you guys have any?
Volume? Because remember, the banks also had to surge, and you have to train people to do that kind of work, even though it's simple, right? So the bank may take some time because of the volume they're getting. Think of Bank of America. The 3rd of April when the program started, I think they had already received 100,000 applications for 26 billion on the first day. You know, so it does take time to look at it. But let's assume everything goes well. They approve the loan, which is just simple, because you don't ask a lot of information. You don't have to wait for a credit history, you know. So you do it. Now you go to a system. Everything is technology, right? Not manual. So you like to make that loan to Mr. Johnson and Company for $500,000. You go to a portal. No, you go to a portal and you put in some information, EIN number, name of company, industry, because we want to capture all that information, a manufacturer, a wholesaler, you add that information and you submit. SBA looks at their money, they still have money to fund program loans, right? They provide you with, it generates a loan number. Bingo, the loan is approved. At that point, the bank has 10 days to disburse the fund at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of simple process at that point with those programs. So, you know, the issue we're having now is, well, I underestimated how much money I needed. What do I do? I need to change to what I did. I forgot to put a number. What do I do? You know, those are the issues. But it's really a simple process. SBA guarantees 100% of the loan. We pay the bank a fee for every loan that they enter into the system. It's a money making for them. The larger bank, they have a lot of money to lend. If you're a small community bank, you may say, I only have 50 million to lend, or I only have 10 million. So I can only make so many loans. And that happens in smaller banks. That's why we are giving money to community bank, the smaller banks, credit union, to help them out because they have limited funding.
Yeah.
Right? So once they do the loan, we provide 100% guarantee on it. So the bank has no risk, they're only making money on these loans. So when your check is cut 10 days, it's got to be 10 days, cannot be 11. You get your check and you go and do what you need to do. You do whatever you have to do. You have your check, you go ahead. Make sure you spend it the right way, right?
Right.
Let's say
so that the majority of it is forgivable, right?
That's correct.
Because if you spend
the payroll piece.
Pardon me?
The payroll piece.
Right.
Because
so you spend 85% on payroll and 15% on interest payments or mortgage or lease or whatever you spend it on, then that amount that you spend on other things than payroll is a traditional loan that you have to pay back within 2 years with 1% interest, and the first year is deferred, correct?
That's correct.
So is the interest deferred for the first year?
You pay interest for the first year, just interest only on that loan. You do pay interest. And it's, by the way, 6 months deferment on PPP, 1 year on EIDL. On the economic insurance,
so
1
it's
year
like 6
deferment.
months on the
Yeah,
PPP.
6 months on the PPP. But you still pay interest for 6 months, but no, you don't pay principal.
Hopefully we'll get through this, right, in 6 months.
Well, yeah, hopefully things will get better, because it's been a struggle for everybody, for the banks who are under pressure. As you know, they're making loans to larger small businesses that they shouldn't, because you have to sign that, you know, without that loan, you know, you may have to shut down. A lot of companies have access to other monies. They didn't have to use those funds. And as you know, a lot of them are returning those monies or put back in the kitty so we can make more loans to small businesses. We're seeing that every day in the newspaper. Yeah. So You know, it's been tough time for the small business that is suffering. They need money tomorrow, and for SBA trying to surge so they can get away from all those applications that are still sitting in a queue.
Well, I know a lot of people are finding there's a lot of stress all around from a health perspective, from a financial perspective, and it's easy for people to say that money can be made and lost, right? But a life, when it's gone, you can't bring a life back. And so I can tell you that there's no easy way out, but if we will get through this. It's tough. There are resources available to help. You got to go and ask. So contact the Empower Series. You can go to our website at www.empowerseries.com. Give us your contact information or email us at thrive, THRIVE, at empowerseries.com with any of your questions, or enter comments in the comment section of any of our social media accounts to get your questions answered or get connected to a resource that can assist you. So Mr. Austin, are there any closing comments that you would like to make as we begin to wrap this up to help people who are out there, looking for resources and not knowing where to go?
Sure. I will say that I know it's been tough. It's been tough. We get the calls. We are putting a minimum of 10 hours a day in the office, each person. I still have to go to an office and work every day. And so we are looking after the interests of the small businesses that are paid to serve. But it's been a tough time for them, but for us as well. We know they're sometimes disgusted in terms of the answers they get from us, but this is the answers that we have. And as you said, we're going to get through this so that people can start thinking of expansion. And again, think of SBA guaranteed loan, which is a great market here. We do $1 billion a year for the last 5 years. So we want to be able now to go to the next step. We got people to get back to work now. We want to buy the second franchise or the third franchise. We want to add more employees to the job. Things are working well. We want to be in that state again where things are back, and we will always be there for the small business as a support system. Well, and thank you so much to yourself for inviting us. And my number is 817-684-5502. The email is herbert.austin@sba.gov. Any of the listeners who thought they understood everything, but they needed a one-on-one, you want to ask, I'm always available to respond to their questions. I get to the office about 6:45, 6:30 every morning, and not leave until 5:30. So.
Well, I want to thank you for making yourself available, and thank you for your whole team and the people that you lead. I know that it's hard work. People are impatient, and when you messing with people's money, and even before they even get the money, you're trying to give them money. They feel like it's it's theirs before they even get it. But I know that you guys are dealing with a lot of stress, so I just ask that we be kind and patient with everyone because everybody's going through some hard times. Again, reach out to the Empower Series, reach out to the Small Business Administration, reach out to your financial services company and let them know what you're going through. Don't keep it to yourself. You're not alone. I definitely want to thank Comerica Bank for their long-term financial support, AE Media Group for making us look good on social media, and for all of your generous donations. I know at this time of hurting, donations have been really down, but if there's any donations you can give, you can also text give or donate to 214-225-6337, or you go to our website at www.empowerseries.com and hit the donate button. But thank you again for your time. Be patient, be caring, take care of yourself, your family, and your loved ones. And until we meet again, be empowered and inspired to thrive. Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.